Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely terrifying sequence of supernatural events. We'll be analyzing the source material of a haunting story to understand how a simple, everyday milestone, moving into a new apartment, turned into a psychological and physical nightmare of just absolute tragic proportions. We aren't just looking at the jump scares today, we're going to break down the timeline, those glaring missed warning signs, and the really dark psychology behind the haunting of flat number 18. Let's get right into it.
We've got to start right here with this seemingly innocent Hindi lullaby. Translated, it basically means, "You are my moon, you are my sun, you are the star of my eyes." It's a song of pure love, meant to comfort a little kid. But as we unpack this story, you'll see how this exact melody became the terrifying, deadly anchor point in Flat 18. It completely transforms from a symbol of a mother's affection into this literal siren song of absolute dread.
Section 1. Welcome to Flat 18, the first warning signs.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Our subjects are Ronak, a civil engineer, and his wife, Juhi, who is 7 months pregnant. They've just arrived at their new company-allocated apartment after an exhausting 5-hour drive. But we have to point out the immediate red flag here. The building guard approaches their car normally at first, right? But the absolute second his eyes fall upon Juhi's pregnant stomach, his entire demeanor completely flips. He physically backs away in terror. He desperately pleads with Ronak to take Juhi to a hotel 2 kilometers away, promising he'll arrange totally different housing for them in a few days. Now think about this for a second. A building guard is turning away a company employee from their assigned housing. That is a massive anomaly. Yet Ronak completely ignores this in favor of convenience. He just brushes off the guard's panic, grabs their bags, and heads straight up to Flat 18.
Now this perfectly illustrates the terrifying isolation Juhi feels during their very first night. At 1:30 in the morning, Juhi wakes up to the unmistakable feeling of a rough, unnaturally hot hand caressing her pregnant stomach. When she grabs it to pull it away, the heat literally burns her hand. She screams. But what does Ronak do? He looks at her hand, sees no visible mark, and immediately rationalizes the whole thing away. He tells her it's just a hallucination, just a byproduct of a 5-hour drive and the stress of pregnancy. Juhi's very real physical trauma is entirely dismissed by her husband's frustrating logic, leaving her to face this entity completely alone. And unbeknownst to them, a shadow figure is already watching them from the dark, nursing a doll in its arms.
Moving on to Section 2. The escalation of terror.
The very next morning, the terror accelerates violently. A maid arrives to help Juhi out, but the moment she realizes which apartment she's actually in, she tries to bolt. Why? Because she explicitly warns Juhi that no one survives in this house. But before she can even finish her sentence, pots and pans crash in the kitchen. They find a black cat with glowing red eyes just staring them down. The maid runs for the elevator in sheer panic, but the cat is already inside. The cat then transforms into this huge, dark, terrifying shadow. The sound it makes is so horrifically loud that the maid begins bleeding profusely from her ears, nose, and mouth, dying instantly right there. Let's be clear. This tragic event proves the supernatural force in this building isn't just trying to spook them. It is aggressively, actively lethal.
By evening, Ronak is back from work, trying to comfort a deeply traumatized Juhi. And then, the lullaby motif returns. While they're sitting out on the balcony, Juhi hears it clear as day, "Chanda Hai Tu, Mera Suraj Hai Tu." The lullaby acts as a targeted siren song that only Juhi can hear. Her unborn baby reacts to it, kicking violently inside her womb. She literally grabs Ronak's hand and places it on her stomach to prove it, but the exact second Ronak touches her, the baby just stops. Once again, Ronak remains completely oblivious to the real danger here, brushing it off and telling her she's been watching way too many web series. Unbelievable, right?
Well, this brings us to the harrowing climax of our explainer. Ronak leads Juhi back into the bedroom to rest, but they are absolutely not alone. Sitting right there on their bed is the shadow figure. It's that same figure previously seen nursing the doll, but now it looks right at them, smiles, and sings that exact same lullaby. Then it speaks directly to Juhi, making its horrific intentions crystal clear. "This baby is mine. Give it to me. I will take it."
Look at how fast the situation devolves into total chaos here. The moment the entity demands the child, Ronak finally wakes up to the danger. He tries to rip open the bedroom door, but it locks automatically, completely trapping them inside. A powerful unseen force knocks them both to the floor. Then that demonic black cat materializes again and viciously attacks Ronak, scratching his face to a bloody pulp so he can't step in to protect his wife. The shadow figure reaches out and places its hand directly on Juhi's stomach. Juhi screams in agonizing pain. As Ronak finally fights off the cat and screams at the entity, the shadow just floats up into the air. But instead of the doll it usually carries, it is now holding the soul of a deceased infant. Juhi tragically suffers a miscarriage and faints on the spot. The ghost's coordinated, highly violent attack successfully achieves its horrifying goal, leaving this couple utterly devastated.
But hold on a second. Before we look at the aftermath of this tragedy, we really need to pause and ask the most crucial question. Who on earth was this woman? And what connects this extreme, highly targeted violence to Flat 1-8? I mean, why Juhi? Why her unborn baby?
Let's find out in Section 3. The dark backstory revealed.
To find our answers, we have to jump to the hospital the very next day. The guilt-ridden building guard visits the recovering couple and finally spills the sinister history of the flat's previous tenants. The tragedy maps out in 4 distinct phases. In the first phase, a married couple lived in Flat 18. The wife was infertile, which tragically led to a severe mental breakdown. She began caring for a plastic doll as if it were her real biological child, constantly singing it that exact same lullaby we've been talking about. In the second phase, the husband, who was desperate for a child, hired a surrogate mother. But in the third phase, the surrogate manipulated the whole situation. She basically blackmailed the husband, giving him this gruesome ultimatum: either kill your wife and marry me, or I will take this baby and leave forever. And in the final, horrific phase, blinded by his desire for a child, the husband actually made his choice. He locked his mentally unwell wife inside Flat 18 with her doll and burned her alive, staging it to look like a simple short circuit.
So, here is the crucial point where all the seemingly random events suddenly make horrifying sense. This is a textbook case of misplaced vengeance. The ghost was desperately clinging to the child she was promised in life. When she saw Juhi arrive at the apartment, a visibly pregnant woman, it directly triggered the traumatic memory of the treacherous surrogate who stole her husband, her future, and ultimately her life. She didn't target Juhi out of random chaotic malice. She targeted her because, in her traumatized, spirit-bound state, she actually thought Juhi was the woman who betrayed her. The doll, the lullaby, the specific targeting of the womb, it was all a tragic reenactment of her own stolen motherhood.
Which brings us to Section 4, the tragic final aftermath.
While Ronak and Juhi technically survived the physical encounter, the true cost of their night in Flat 18 goes so much deeper. Juhi's mental state is completely shattered. The sheer trauma of the violent attack and the heartbreaking loss of her unborn child has left her deeply psychologically damaged, perhaps irreparably so. Ronak, finally realizing the devastating consequences of ignoring those early warning signs, is forced to pack up whatever is left of their lives and move them far, far away from the city. But the ultimate tragedy here, the spirit of the murdered wife receives absolutely no peace. Her vengeance brought her no comfort whatsoever, and her soul remains trapped within the blackened walls of that apartment.
Even today, locals say that if you walk past flat number 18 late at night, you can still hear the faint sound of a woman singing a lullaby to her child. Chanda Hai Tu, Mera Suraj Hai Tu. I want to leave you with this final, chilling thought to consider. The next time you move into a new place, ignore a warning sign out of pure convenience, or maybe hear a strange noise echoing in the walls, just ask yourself, where are you really living? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and seriously, keep your eyes open.